Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, or should I say welcome to the first time to a series of toy reviews that I will be doing here on the Weekend Dojo. Yes, you may be used to seeing me back on my own channel, ElChizzo Reviews, where I review a lot of budget toys. But here we're going to be reviewing toys that are kind of at a higher price point for you more dedicated collectors out there. And when I say higher price point, I basically mean anything above $35. Speaking of which, we're going to be looking at today's subject, Blaster from the Titans Return toy line. Yes, this little guy here is, well, just a figure we have not seen in this form for a while. He actually does have the whole blocky thing going on. You definitely can tell what he transforms into just by looking at him. But before we get into any of that, let me talk to you about the Titans Return gimmick. Now, there was a toy line back in the 80s. A lot of you older viewers will already know what it is. But for those of you who are younger or don't go too far back as far as Transformers stuff goes, there was a gimmick called the Headmasters. And no, I didn't break the toy, don't worry. And these Headmasters were actually small Transformers that turned into the head of your figure on its own. Now, they brought that back under the name Titan Masters. Let's bring that up so you guys can get a look. Now, these are actually way smaller than the originals. Let's see if I can get the camera to focus on it. There you see. Now, this actually is, each Titan Master does have its own name. This guy is Twincast. And you might think it's because he's literally just a mini version of Blaster. And you would be partially right. The difference being is, like, there was an Asia-only release repaint of Blaster, the original Blaster, in blue. And the name of that toy was Twincast, so it's a nice little throwback to an Asia-only exclusive. And they all peg in. Oh, I should probably explain this. They just kind of fold up, and their head still sticks out. And that head plugs into that port right there. And so what we're going to do is shove his little head right down in there so that he may become the head. And sometimes it's a little sticky. Different people have different methods for remedying this. Some people stick them in backwards then turn them around because the Titan Master head is on a ball joint. I find that if you just line it up and take your time, it's not a big deal. And what I love about the leader class Titans Return figures is just how much detail goes into them. For instance, you can't tell from first glance, but the helmet that folds over Twincast there is actually just a piece of transparent plastic that's been painted. Granted, because it's transparent, you need to be careful with it, but it's usually out of the way. You don't have to worry too much. Let's keep you in frame. I'm sorry, this is a new format, and I'm getting used to it. As a matter of fact, you know what? Let's switch over, and I'll hold him over here. Now, what we're looking at for Blaster here is something beefier than you would expect from what he transforms into. And you've heard me yammer on and on about it, and we will get to that. But first, let's go over his features. Now, he does hold on to the original feature of Blaster, and that would be he can hold stuff in his chest. This is not a micro-cassette figure. This is supposed to be, well, from what I can guess, let's see if it'll pick it up. This is supposed to be the remote for the Blaster, for Blaster's boombox mode. But it also seems to double as a triple-barreled gun. And again, we'll get to that. You slide it in there. You do slide it in there, you close it up, he holds it just fine. However, I did say that he does retain Blaster's original gimmick, the one that he also kind of shared with Soundwave. And that would be that he is compatible with microcassette figures. This is Titans Return Legends Class Rewind. A favorite of mine, if you've ever read Matumti, the IDW More Than Meets the Eye comic. And he fits in there just fine if you remove his gun. Close him up, happy as a clam. This guy will be getting a review on my other channel, so don't worry about that. Putting the remote back in there. Let's talk about paint, because this is the Hasbro mode, but it does do an alright job with paint. If I can get the light on it, look at all this metallic coloring going across it. At least on the upper torso. And then as you go down, you know, you've got some tampos here on the crotch plates. Little reference to his original mode. Except instead of, you know, control buttons, it's just a little bit of paint. Just enough gunmetal paint in there to give you the impression of speakers, and that's about where the paint ends. As far as articulation goes, being a Titan Master does kind of limit head articulation. He can, and with a leader class that has to wear a helmet, it gets a little trickier. However, this does solve that problem. You see, on its own, turns left, turns right on its own just fine, but it plugs into an assembly in here that has its own swivel, all connected with this giant arm in the back there, which will fold away into his back when we transform him. So yeah, he can look left, he can look right. He can't really look up or down, again, because that's just the nature of this gimmick. For shoulders, he has... Let me get this close to the mic because you're going to want to hear this. Some nice buttery ratchets going forward and back. And then for outward motion, nice clickety ratchet joints. He doesn't have any wrist swivel, but it doesn't... elbow. Yeah, it's a nice firm ratchet in the elbow. No wrist swivel, but I don't think that's a detriment to the toy. It does kind of go inward, but that's more or less for the transformation. Which reminds me, that does leave him with some awkward, kind of hollow holes in his forearms, but if you're not looking for them, they're no big issue. His legs, kind of a similar situation to the arms. This guy is all ratchet joints, pretty much. I mean, yeah, he's got swivels, but pretty much everything has swivels. So if we move his legs, we are returned to those nice buttery ratchet joints. And then we've got a heavier ratchet joint going forward and back. Again, swivel in here. As far as his knee goes, there's a nice heavy ratchet in there, but it's more or less for the sake of for the necessity of the transformation. And what I like is they put the knee very far forward so that you get pretty much the 90-degree bend that you want. Again, though, it does leave him with, you know, kind of a... Let's see if I can get it on camera. Kind of a hollow leg there, because... which will be explained when we transform him. Now, he actually has impressive articulation in his legs. He's got forward and outward. He's got ratcheting backwards and forwards. He can toe. If you feel like he needs a little more bounce, which he should not need more bounce, because this is a very solid figure. Once you stand it up, it stays. But if you do feel like you need some more bounce, you can flip this out as kind of a pseudo heel spur. I wouldn't try it though. It's a little loose. And I mean, I suppose if you wanted to, you could invoke the original G1 look by folding his handle up. Whatever pleases you. Now, let's get him transformed. I will take his gun away. You know what? For the sake of this, what I'm going to do is cut right to his other modes. Yes, modes plural. And we'll go over them because I don't want to spoil any. I don't want to spoil the experience for you guys. I will explain how certain transformation tricks are accomplished, but I'm not going to spoil too much for you. So, future Chaz, cut the video right here. And no, I did not just stop halfway through the transformation. You see, this, being a leader class Titans Return figure, has a base mode. Now, yes, it is kind of one of those base modes where they just stopped halfway through, and said, okay, so we'll just slap a couple guns on it and call it a base mode. But they actually put a little effort into there. There's some stickers in here. A little danger sticker here. Little detail molded in there. So they did think through it. They did think it through some. And yes, even the, oh, get back in there, Twincast. Yes, even the, door for the cassette loader, which is actually now they're all friggin' spy tablets, I don't know, becomes a little battle station. And that remote here connects to the handle to create sort of a triple blaster. And if you want to, you can take his gun and the guns of whatever mini cassettes, and we're going to call them mini cassettes because I don't think a spy tablet is a thing, and if it is, it would not be that small because then it wouldn't qualify as a tablet. But you can take Blaster's gun, you can take any of the mini cassette guns, and you can plug them into these, because this guy is loaded down with 3mm ports. So you can just attach any 3mm weapon you want. You could even stick swords on there, although that would look kind of weird. And when this guy is in tank mode, he does look right at home on this little platform here. It all looks very nice. And as part of the gimmick with Titan's Return, they've got holes. Let's see if the camera will pick it up. On the bottom of their feet. It doesn't look like it's picking it up. But they are there, and you'll see pegs here and here. All over this guy. So what you can do is stand him, albeit with a bit of force. Uh-oh. Now that's the drawback of using this. Excuse me while I put some force behind this. Get on there. And so he can stand right there, overseeing things, supervising. And you've got little singular pegs all around here, so you can just stand them up. And you will need those pegs to stand them up because, given the way they transform, they've got a lot of essentially an upside down face on their back, and that's a pretty large backpack for a figure that small. So they're going to have issues standing up. Now that's all I've got to say about this because there's nothing here that you didn't see in robot mode. So what we're going to do is we are going to cut again back to down to his final mode now. Well, that was an experience. Now I'm not going to show you what went on, but it almost felt like the top half and the bottom half of Blaster were designed by two different people. Because as you can see, the robot arms are across here, and then you've got, we'll show off the detail later, but you've got what were his legs here. But you see, they've kind of folded out. So the top half of him is this nice, big old motion of chunks moving around. And, it's all ratchet joints and it clicks into place and just feels solid. And then the bottom half, his legs, is all panels and double hinges and tabs that have to kind of slide into place. And it can be a little tricky for the first couple of times. You do have to kind of understand that everything is fiddly when it pegs together. And I think that's mostly just the fault of the alien bottom half on him here. And things do tend to come unpegged. This is the has gonna happen. But if you know what you're doing, everything just kind of sits nice. Now, we're going to take a look at some of the detail. Nothing here is new except for the speakers, which have folded out from the sides of his legs. But if we turn him around back, you'll see a lot of the stuff I like about this over here. Let's get some light on him, and I will show you what I mean. Starting right here, you have what is essentially a molded-in power cord input, which is actually part of the gimmick that goes with a lot of the mini cassettes, who all have headphone jacks molded in. And he does have headphone jacks molded in as well on the other side, but I just feel like they went the extra mile with this. None of this detail had to be here. They could have just left that flat work right next to the power cord input. And for some reason, a really fat butt. Now you'll see, now obviously it has to be that fat for the way the remote and a lot of the other mini cassettes fit in. But you'll also notice that there are hinges here, or parts of hinges, hanging off that back end. And that's because of the base mode. It does kind of connect with other base modes in a similar way to the MicroMaster playsets, where you could build like whole cities and whatnot. That's kind of cool. I just kind of wish that it didn't have to be a halfway thing with Blaster here. I would have loved if they could actually release actual playsets like they did back in the day. I know plenty of adults would be really into that. And if you're wondering where Twincast went, well, this remote here, this Blaster, has multiple functions. One, you can stow him away in there for storage in the chest kebab. It's not a, I mean, in this case, it's not a cassette player. While Blaster is in his boombox mode, Twincast can kind of use the remote as a pseudo little vehicle to cruise around and go blasting sonic waves at people. And I got a huge kick out of that. And what you can also do is you can still attach le gun to the 3mm ports in the remote. You can even borrow weapons again from the other mini cassettes. But what you can also do with this gun is you'll notice a 3mm port right down there. And what you can do with the gun is stick the handle right in there, and you've got your radio antenna. Now, there are going to be a bunch of kids who barely understand what a radio antenna is, and I imagine that for the people watching this in the future, I'm not sure how long FM radio is going to be sticking around, so this may have dated my video horribly. But it is a thing you can do. It's a nice place. It's a nice option for storage. You can actually quite compactly store everything that comes with the toy in its alt mode. Its actual alt mode. Because Twincast in the underside of the remote here sits really flush. Nice and flat. Almost nothing noticeable. And, you know, you can stick them right in here. Oh, that's another thing I want to mention about the door. It is not spring-powered. The button is on a spring, but this is all done with gravity. There's nothing that's going to wear down too much. The only thing I would have to worry about is just this button here. Because if that goes, then all that's going to happen is that's not going to close. That's your main concern, which you could probably fix with just like a little pen spring out of a clicky pen. And that is pretty much Blaster. On his own, he is actually a really fun toy. If you have the other Titan Masters, he's even more fun because you can swap them around and have them at little battle stations in his base mode. Because I actually had a lot of fun with the base mode regardless. And if you've got some of the mini cassettes like Rewind and Stripes and all that, and all those good little guys that you remember from G1, then you've expanded your play pattern even more. So, would I recommend getting Blaster? On his own, yes. If you've already started collecting the cheaper stuff, which you probably do if you watch my other channel, then I would say double yes. Grab it up. I got this guy for $45 at Walmart, believe it or not. However, you can get him at different prices at different stores, like HobbyLink Japan, Ami. You can get him on Amazon and eBay, although prices do vary because a lot of that is resale and they are trying to make a profit. But all in all, this is a fun toy. I don't know how much better the Takara version is. I imagine it's much better, as that's usually the pattern. But the Hasbro version itself is a lot of fun, and I could not be happier with him. You will see more expensive toy reviews here on this channel. Mostly they're going to be expensive toys that I like, as expensive toys that I don't like will be saved for a future series on my other channel, ElChizzo Reviews. You will see a link to that down below. So, thank you so much for watching. Look forward to more expensive toy reviews, podcasts, and even game reviews here on the Weekend Dojo, and I will see you next time.